Welcome to The Explainer. We're diving into something totally fascinating today, and honestly, kind of unsettling. I want to jump straight into this startling personal story from the author of our source text. Picture this. They're faced with this agonizing task. They have to message their sister about their mom's devastating medical diagnosis. So what did they do? Well, they actually asked ChatGPT what to text. Yeah, they hit enter before they even fully realized what they were doing. And the AI instantly spit back three perfectly tailored options: warm, concise, validating. The author just copied option 2, sent it off, and then sat there in this dark kitchen. The kettle clicked twice in the silence, and in that quiet, it hit them. They had literally just used a robot to deliver the absolute worst news of their life. For about 10 minutes, they just felt this hollow, unnameable feeling, and when they could finally put a name to it, it was relief. The terrifying part is that this hollow relief actually came first, way before the actual grief, before the worry for their sister, before any of the messy human emotion that you'd expect to be there. Section 1. The Borrowed Brain. The Cost of Outsourcing Our Feelings. Okay, so fast forward 3 weeks later, the author is in a $250 an hour therapy session, telling their therapist this whole story about the diagnosis. Now, right mid-sentence, the author reflexively checks their phone. They didn't even notice they did it, but the therapist absolutely did. She lets the author finish talking, and then she drops this on them. You're describing the message you sent. I'm asking what you would have written. The author just went totally quiet. And the therapist didn't lean forward. She didn't try to fill the awkward space. She just let that piercing realization hang in the air until the author realized, wow, there simply was no answer. And that moment really highlights something profound. There is this precise, fleeting window of time between having a genuine, difficult thought and paying it out to an algorithm. 7 seconds. In that incredibly brief 7-second window, the thought is still yours. You haven't surrendered it just yet. You could still sit with it, feel its weight, and let it actually shape you. But, as you'll see, we are increasingly losing that exact window. We can define this whole phenomenon as the borrowed brain. It's basically the reflex to send a thought out of your skull before feeling its weight, exchanging it for a tidy paragraph that does not belong to you. Now, what's really interesting about this is not a tool problem. We're not just talking about a software glitch here. This is the slow privatization of the very part of us that used to actually think and feel. And the crazy thing is, we're abdicating our humanity in everyday scenarios all the time now. Just think about it. Generating wedding toasts for our oldest friends, workshopping apologies to our partners so we don't sound too angry, drafting condolence notes, even writing eulogies. When we prompt a language model to handle an apology or a final goodbye, that abdication carries profound moral weight. We are literally asking a machine to do the human work of feeling. Section 2. The Missing Processing. The Science of Feeling. Okay, let's dive into this because we need to pivot from the personal narrative to the biological reality of what's actually happening inside our bodies. Let's slow down for a second and look at the science. James Pennebaker spent nearly 3 decades at the University of Texas studying this exact thing. He found that the simple act of writing about an emotional event by hand, just 15 minutes a day for 4 days, produces measurable physical changes in a person's immune function weeks later. Think about that for a second. The secret wasn't the specific words they wrote. The mechanism of healing was that the nervous system was physically forced to metabolize the emotion on the way down to the page. And this brilliantly illustrates the divide between the two. When you simply prompt an AI, you skip the processing entirely. The thought happens outside your nervous system. You essentially become a mere quality control inspector of your own unmetabolized inner life, just scanning the output to see if it looks okay. But when you write by hand, you carry the thought. The nervous system is the processor. The feeling doesn't just magically disappear when you use AI, it just stays trapped and completely unmetabolized inside of you. Section 3. The Wisdom of Friction. The 2,000-year-old habit. So how did humanity process difficult emotions before we could, rent intelligence by the month? Well, consider Marcus Aurelius. He was the most powerful man in the known world. He could have asked literally any living philosopher for advice. But instead, for 19 years, he chose the page.
Every single night, he did exactly what that $250 an hour therapist advises. He wrote private notes to himself in Greek ink. The philosopher Pierre Hadot called these hypnomata, spiritual exercises. Aurelius chose the page because the page is the only listener that actually makes you do the heavy internal work.
Section 4. The hard truth. The useful forgery. Which brings us to a really hard truth in our explainer today about the true cost of outsourcing our words. The source text is crystal clear on this. There is no such thing as an AI-assisted apology. There's only an apology you didn't make. If a model wrote the difficult part of your message, that message is a forgery. Now, yes, it might be a useful forgery. It might even be a really kind one. But it's a forgery nonetheless. And the person receiving it is absolutely being deceived into thinking you actually went inward and did the hard emotional labor. So the crucial point is addressing the obvious excuse here. People always say, but it helped me say something I couldn't have said otherwise. The author's response to this is brutally honest. You could have said it. You simply chose not to learn how. Relying on an algorithm means you are actively choosing to empty your own emotional reservoir. You can rent intelligence, sure, but you absolutely cannot rent the part of you that grows from having had the thought in the first place. Section 5. 3 steps to reclaim. Reintroducing friction. So how do we actually fix this? Well, the author analyzed 80 pages of their own messy post-AI handwriting and found that, while it was embarrassing, those friction-filled pages were vastly superior simply because they were uniquely theirs. So here are 3 incredibly practical steps, ordered by friction, to reintroduce that necessary difficulty back into your life. Step 1. Delete the AI apps right off your phone. Keep them on your desktop only. That immediately breaks that 7-second thumb reflex. Step 2. Write the first draft of any emotional message, apologies, condolences, whatever, by hand. The physical friction of the pen forces your nervous system to carry the thought. And step 3, the 9 p.m. page. Just one side of an A5 notebook every single night. Don't plan it out, don't even reread it. Just find out what you're actually thinking by getting it down on the page. Section 6. The return. Filling the reservoir. Months after that first text message, the author's sister called, crying again. The diagnosis had moved. But this time, sitting at that exact same kitchen table with the lights actually on, the author didn't reach for the phone keyboard. They finally recognized that unnameable feeling from months ago. It was grief. Unmetabolized grief that had literally nowhere to go because they had outsourced its very first sentence. So instead of typing out a prompt, they reached for a notebook. They wrote the first sentence of what they wanted to say to their sister completely by hand, and then they picked up the phone and said it out loud. And this beautifully illustrates the ultimate takeaway of our explainer today. The author realized they weren't going back, not because AI models are inherently bad or evil, but because of this simple, profound desire. I want to be the one who shows up. It forces us to ask ourselves a really vital question. Are you truly present in your own relationships, actually feeling the weight of your own life? Or are you just sending a proxy on your behalf? Definitely something to think about the next time you have a difficult message to send. Thanks so much for joining me today, and keep learning.